So Kikyu, you're standing on one leg with the sole of your left foot placed firmly against the inner side of your right knee. There's the slightest of wobbles to your stance. Outstretched in your right hand, one of your thighs points at a right angle to your body, to the moss gathering on the ruined wall beyond. You can hear the drip of water from one of the many cracks in the ceiling seem to echo your slowed heartbeat. You can smell the cup of warm tea as it rests atop your bun, on top of your head. With your left hand outstretched, you hold another mug of tea, warm in your hand, and it shakes like a tree in the breeze that you try to remain like the statue. The mantras taught you by Masato-san, going like a chain through your mind, trying to bring calm and quiet and ultimate control over your body. No, he calls. You twist and spin and move to exchange sai to one hand, teacup to the other, and spin about, landing on your right foot to put your left foot at your knee, all while not spilling a drip, the bun on top of your head. You nearly overbalance, though right yourself like a reed in the breeze, and there's the slightest clatter of the cup as it wobbles on the saucer. About to fall. Masato watches from the corner. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Again! And you flip, reversing the stance. The teacup falls from your hand. You reach out a foot to collect it. Sway, limbs splayed. The tiniest of smiles peels from Masato's lips. You are learning well, daughter.
You honor me, Masato-san, with your praise.
He rises from his cross-legged position and stalks slowly over to you, taking the tea from your shaking hand. When he lifts the weight away, you notice your hand rise up a few inches from like the muscles tense to hold it perpendicular, and he sips at it. Good. He places it back on your hand like a bowling ball. He puts his hands at your waist and like rights you so that you're straight. The core. The core is where all strength comes from. Again! You flip. In the dojo beyond, across the hallway, through papered walls, the dummy stands knocked and marked. Cuts, gashes, bruises about it. Flurry of blades. Carving at the wood of the dummy. Straw spills from its head. You drop to your knees, blades outflashed. A drop of sweat falls. Takakage. To splash on the dusty floor. From your forehead, you look up, an errant strand of hair splays between your vision. The dummy that you've murdered, brutalized, decapitated, disemboweled, and maimed over these last years of intense training. The paper slide behind you opens, and you hear the soft pad of Masato's feet and the almost imperceptible clip of his thongs as they clatter over the ground. Again, my son.
Right. Stand and unleash a flurry, very quick, with both hands, the shorter blade held inverted.
To cut and slash are two different things. Cutting, whatever form of cutting it is decisive, with a resolute spirit. Slashing is nothing more than touching the enemy.
I'll think about that for a moment and nod.
Yeah, again.
Hey! And I'll go again.
Can I have a perception check from you, my lord?
Yes, sir.
Daimyo-san, I should say.
Oof, an 8.
So you give these two perfect cuts across the chest and one the belly, striking at the heart to shock and the belly to rip open, spill forth the guts of your imaginary foe. You allow yourself a foolish moment of pride. You feel the cold sing of Misato's blade at the back of your neck. Very few foes are at your front, my son. Always remember that.
I'll close my eyes and I'll breathe and think and try and imagine where he's standing to where I am. And I'm going to try and like wheel and knock the blade away from the threatening position it is in.
Sure. Roll to hit.
I 12.
He like limbos backwards at an almost unhuman angle as your blade like sings around and you spin free of the cold steel at your neck. But will kill lesser men, but even in his old, decrepit age, his knobbly knees, gnarled hands, and near milky eyes, he's evaded the blade. A fine strike, my son, but I sensed it. You must sense things coming too.
Yes, Sensei.
A dozen times more through the kata, and then join us for early supper.
I'm nodding it back to the work.
The sliding paper closes behind you. Masato gently patters out. You can hear every so often, Satami, the plop, plop of carp loping above and then below the water of like the brook. It's tributary off the side of the river that cuts through the woods here, where the ruined temple that's been your home for so long sits astride. You saw a turtle in the murky green depths when you'd come to sit and meditate, and the sounds of the loping carp had been pleasant to you as the mantras taught to you by Masato echo through your mind. The color of the mountains is Buddha's body. The sound of running water is his great speech. The words echo from the voice in your mind. Your lips slowly move with the rhythm of the mouthing at this mantra. Bloop, bloop. Another lope of the carp. You can see ripples in the pool beyond emanate from where these carp lope. They make their way all the way to the slowly lapping edge. You've maintained your control and peacefulness for some hours now. It's shattered by violent shaking in the water. The wicker trap placed there earlier moves and creaks and splashes in the water as the victim inside struggles. As you rise from your pose of the lotus, make your way over, you can see through the tip of the cage as it pokes through the water inside a fish, broad and whiskered, flapping, heaving futilely against the bamboo fish trap. Dinner.
Satami just looks at it and contemplates the fate of this sustenance for he and his kin. But the end of its journey.
Contemplating, you would notice how like the ebb of the brook and the placement of the trap means that as the fish swims with the current and guided into the wicker, the bamboo trap in like the silty, muddy edge of the brook where it stands, and that it swimmed in almost without knowing that it was going into a prison.
He would step gingerly down into this brook. He would lift up this wicker trap. And as he does so, he holds it up, and he speaks to the fish as if it can understand him. He says, "With your passing, you will allow us to build strength in our muscles, so that we might do what we must." And then he would kind of make his way to the bank, put the wicker trap up there,
It mouths some unspoken reply, gasping for water to flood through it. Shakes in your hand. The grip is like iron. Its fate is sealed. You notice how as you leave the pool, your ripples mingle with those made by the loping carp in the center of the brook. You can hear beyond the river. A breeze blows through the trees, sending a leaf lazily along the zephyr to land where fate decrees.
Yeah, so Tommy would stop a second and he would watch the ripples as they interplay with one another. And he would think about how these separate ripples, how they represent life, how each ripple will interpose itself on another, much like he and those of his clan will soon do with others. And it puts a smile on his face. He's a peaceful man, or to call him a man would probably be rather presumptuous. Him just barely getting any whiskers on the edges of his cheeks.
Oh yeah, I got that one too. Which one?
The sound of birds, the loping carp, the run of the river, and the of insects in the trees is splashed by a new noise, one you've not heard for some time. It's sobbing. It's meek. It's carried on the same breeze that took that leaf. And then your sense is heightened. You smell it. Something fragrant wafting in the air.
So Tommy would take a deep breath. The others think he's foolish, marveling at the beauty of the world. They see only conflict, barriers to be overcome. He sees balance. They seek the same purpose, but for their reasons are much different.
I can't do this. It's hard. I can do it. I'm gonna do on a different server.
So, what is it that he's smelling?
It's sandalwood mingled with something else that you can't put a name to. It would be heady in full stock, though it's light here, carried on the breeze. A luxurious smell that you've not smelt since you were small. It brings back a brief reverie, a flash from your memory. Fire, screams, iron on iron, gritted teeth shattering, red flowers falling.
Without knowing it, he almost has a waking dream, in that flashback. He reaches it with a shaking hand and runs it along his bald scalp, and is surprised to feel sweat there. The breeze has cooled him. So Tommy reaches down, grabs the wicker cage, and follows the sound of the crying.
You step slowly through the undergrowth, not disturbing the artifice beneath your feet. As you traipse towards this sound, it grows louder. The smell lingering in the air and grows stronger. You peer through some ferns beyond. You can see this grey-blue waft of smoke coming up from a thin stick. It's been placed in the overgrown weeds about this old stone shrine whose edifice has long been summoned away by the erosion of time. There's a woman in a faded pink and dirty deal or kimono, sitting on her knees with her feet poking out the back, and old, crude sandals. Her hair is in a bun, sits atop her head. Tears drop in big, fat wads down into the weeds, nourishing them as these sobs and muttered words. You can hear them now. Please, please, ancient spirits, send your sons to aid us.
From his vantage point, Satami, grandmother, Why do you cry so?
The sobbing is cut short, and no grandmother turns to regard you, but a woman, middle age, of middling years. She looks up. She wears no makeup, but you can see where the tears have gouged down the grime of her face, and she looks away from you in shame. Oh, forgive me, stranger. And she quickly moves to like wipe out her tears and like dust the front of her kimono and bows low.
Satomi can't help but his face flushes a bit at his mistake. He instinctively just bows a couple of times. He says, "Forgive me, sister. I did not know. Why do you cry? When we pray, usually brings happiness, peace, serenity."
I have tried, she says, to be tranquil and clear. The grief is too much. I'm pleading with these spirits here to send aid to us. My grandmother had told me that in days of old, warrior monks dwelt here in these woods. In times of great need, they would come for the people.
Satomi would kind of look around this crumbling temple. Its greatness now long gone. Hold on a second. I just want to apologize. I have my kids in the background, so there will be some background noise.
No arigato is necessary.
Yes. I will take my caning later. So Satomi would approach her. He has the wicker with the now expired fish in it under his left arm, and he walks closer to her. I would imagine as he was meditating, he's probably bare chested, just having his loose trousers on, and he would be barefoot. He walks toward her and smiles and says, "I will pray with you, sister, if you would like."
I would like that, she says.
Maybe then the spirits would listen or hear us. He sets down the wicker basket, the wicker nest cage, and retrieves an incense stick, much like she was burning. And he would light it off of hers, hold it in his hands, and he would face the temple and he would bow as he was been taught. And then he would look to her, for her to do the same.
She does and tries to mimic you, taking you for an apprentice so high or the like, given how I imagined you look.
Yeah, he would probably have those acolyte tattoos on his forehead or up at the base of his scalp.
The Purple Dragon clan ravish our town of Tajiri, she says. Extort us. Millet and what coin we have, they take. They treat us, and she looks down, roughly. Please, spirits, ancestors of the Sohai, hear my prayers and send us aid or good fortune. The winter now will already be too hard to bear with what the gang have taken.
So he hears her words, and he as he's continuing to go through the motions of this ritual, and as he finishes bowing, he places this into the ground in front of the shrine, and it still burns, that thin wisp of gray smoke, and he says, "Sister, vengeance is never good. Justice is what we want. Come."
There is no justice in these lordless lands, she says. But what justice the people can make, that much is clear, and I've heard my grandmother say thus many times. These are hard days that we must bear, and justice is scant as rice in the field in Tajiri.
He would listen and not challenge her, seeing her state. He would smile and rise, remembering the fish and he would say, "Come, I'd like to introduce you to my brother. He's much wiser than I."
You honor me, monk, she says, though already I have tarried too long from my chores. Grandmother will be angry, and it will take me some time to reach Tajiri.
And he would just nod to her.
Thank you for your comfort and vigil, she says. I have some small peace, and I feel that the ancestors have heard my orisons. She goes to rise. Thank you, and she puts her hands together and bows low before you.
Satomi would do the same.
Forgive my rudeness, but I cannot accept your hospitality. And she looks up through the trees and can see that the afternoon's grown long. You can see by her roomy eyes and like the white gouges that the tears have made down her face that she's obviously been here in this condition. Some hours praying, quite reverent. She stretches her back and looks over her shoulder. Beyond the woods, where Masato that has acted as like a border, I guess, or envelope for you all under Masato's tutelage here in the ruins. She looks back to you, meeting your gaze. Do you think the spirits will hear me, stranger?
I do.
She gives a smile at that, shows a chipped tooth. Some beauty through the grime and sadness. Heartened, she turns. Perhaps I will see you again. She makes her way away after bowing with finality, as if the breeze that tore the leaf carries her.
Sato would probably just say, and it's barely even an audible whisper, he would say, perhaps.
Masato sits with Kikyu and Takakage at his left and right, the low table before you, pewter cups of tea placed on it, a symmetry to the meager fare, a pot of freshly cooked rice sits in the middle like a centerpiece of the feast to come. A feast is perhaps a grand word here. The Masato loves nothing more than the Spartan fare that is served for you guys for most of your life. He has this peaceful expression on his face, though you know that by now Satami should have returned. Maybe worry has set in, but it's quickly allayed when you hear from outside the door sliding open. Satami walks in. You can see your family here. Even though they've been washed and fresh kimonos put on, you can see that your brother and sister have been hard at training this day. They still flush, and the smell of sweat tangs in the air. Satami-san, come, he says. What have you there?
He would bow, and he would proudly display the wicker cage with the fish in it. And he would say, I bring us a feast.
Good. We are hungry. And he'll rise and go to a block behind the table where there's a brazier. Take a long knife and with expert precision, gut, scale, quarter the fish before plopping it into a clay pot that sits bubbling with some spices mingled amongst the water. Braises the chunks of catfish. The smell makes all of your stomachs groan. He whistles a forlorn tune to himself as you take your place, Satami, next to your brother and sister. You smell different, my son, he says with his back to you, which I guess would make Takakage and Kikyu look to Satami.
Masato-san, I met an interesting woman as I meditated by the pool.
There's a brief moment as he stops at his cooking and then continues.
And Satomi would look at his brother and sister, looking for any reaction. Not seeing anything, he would continue.
What kind of
Yes.
woman?
He stops, maybe a little startled by the stern way in which his brother asks.
Wait, Elijah,
He give a little bow and say, "She was from a nearby village. She was praying at the small shrine there.
Why?
I heard her crying."
Why, Elijah?
Takagage will like reach out and like with a very sort of stiff movement, he'll like reach for his cup and then he'll like lift it perfectly perpendicular and then take like one sip and then place it back down, all very mechanical and measured. Crying. Why?
She told me that they were attacked by Purple Dragon Clan. She said she was from Tajari. Have you heard of it?
I'm guessing Tojiri is like the local village or the closest village to here.
It's a village that lies beyond the outskirts of these woods. It sits like atop the curve of the river that like is the lifeblood of your existence. You've never been there, though you know of it. Masato has spoken of it a few times. He's gone there in the past to gather things, gone for days at a time. They're not for many months now. He is old, and you know that the journey tolls him greatly.
And what about the Purple Dragon Clan? Do I know anything about those?
Nope, you've not heard of them. At the mention of that, Masato grows still again and does not resume his cooking, but turns after a moment and lets out a...
Banditry. It's injustice. We must do something. Sensei?
Closes his eyes. You're not sure if it's like a wince or not. What does your heart tell you, my son?
These people cannot defend themselves. They shouldn't suffer like this.
Words of Bushido, of the samurai, he says. What say you, daughter?
I know little of Tajiri and the people there, but I see the trouble on your face, Masato-san. What is it?
The Purple Dragon gang are thieves, cutthroats, ruffian and honorless ronin. That they are here is an ill omen.
We are ready, Masato-san.
He gives a smile that's pained. I know this. You are grown now, adults all. There are many roads before you that lead from this place. And I cannot hold you here, denying you a life. The paths that you must take are yours to choose. Walk them remembering what I have taught you. The decision is yours.
Best to make such a decision with a full stomach.
He smiles. Indeed. And he'll bring forward the clay pot and spoon out to each plate before you. Like a quarter of the meal of catfish and this like broth. There's a wooden spoon in the bowl of rice and sticks placed neatly and perpendicular next to each of your plates. And he will give a smile and begin to slurp at the broth and spoon the rice and fish in with the sticks. This is good and well caught, Satomi.
He would smile at the approval of his sensei, and he of course would measured steps. He would wait until he first eats before he would even himself begin to eat.
Masato-san puts down his sticks after a while, chews his last mouthful, puts a hand over his mouth, clears his throat, nods in thanks. Uncertainty and destiny walk hand in hand beyond the walls of the world of this temple. It has been our sanctuary here. But peace does not last forever, he says, nor do secrets lay dormant forever. He looks around knowing that each of you have now finished. It is time, he says. Time I told you of your past, of your stories, the truth that has been withheld from you. I would have you know it before you leave these halls. Many years ago, when you were still children at your mother's breast, a great enemy of your father came to the lands of Yoku, your birthright. I know, he says, I have called you sons and daughter. But you were not born by my wife or by my seed, he says. You are noble born, each of you, the sons and daughter of Hamato Yoshi and Hamato Mio, once the rulers of mighty Yoku. But your father's enemy, Orakurusaki, came in a night with steel and fire that fell as mightily as the heaviest of snows. The fighting was fierce and the fire raged all around, and in the end your father Yoshi knew defeat. I had begged him that I could accompany him to the afterlife and take my life, but he forbade it. He tasked me to rescue you, his true children, from the flames and the very jaws of death. No man can dishonor his Lord. And so I strove into the flaming wreckage amongst the maelstrom of blades, fought my way to you. He goes quiet at this, and you can see tears welling in his eyes as his mouth closes, his lips form this dark line. Oh, I could not save you all from the flames. You had a sister, he says, Miwa. You were born, he says, holding each other, Kikyu. But that night, Orakusaki severed that embrace with fire. Your mother too was claimed, he says, in the inferno. And even as the fighting raged still, I took you from your beds, squalling. And then he'll rise at this, lift up the straw mat that he's sitting upon, and you can see these 3 bundles beneath it. Old and tattered, though perhaps once fine fabric, dyed in turn of red, purple, and green, each with a strange crest embroidered upon it. To each of you it brings back memories. You know it to be a symbol of your lineage, of your house, symbol of truth. He hands the red to you, Satomi, the purple to you, Kikyo, and the green to you, Takakage. These very blankets swaddled you in your bedchambers as the castle of Yoku fell to flame and blood. I took you bundled and carried you to the river, and with its current swept away from the danger and death and smoke. To my shame, I could not defend my lord your father, nor save his noble wife. He swallows at this, and the tears begin to fall freely. I have done my best to raise you with what skills I have, to not constrict you or give you too much freedom, as both things can be poison. And the river that flowed and took us all from harm to safety, feeds and nourishes us still. We owe much to those water spirits, he says. And I owe much to you, my children. You have given me a life beyond dishonor. A true life. I know that this is my last winter, that I have seen the last 4 seasons of my life, and soon I will go to the spirits, and fall as the blossom does to the bough. I cannot go to my grave with such heavy secrets in my heart. The time will come, he says, when you will choose the way of peace or the way of blood. Both ways are hard, and in both ways you will fail. This is the way of people. But it is not failure which marks you, but your resilience thereafter. And it does not matter should a man or woman fall 7 times, only that they would rise for the 8th. He moves after handing each of you this swaddling cloth, and these smells, they bring up strange patchwork imagery and memories repressed by age and trauma. Cacophony of screaming, of burning wood, collapsing lumber, ripping of fabric and flesh, spilling of blood, the rush of water over rocks, rapids, swirling sound. But eventually, through Masato's training, your minds can find some peace. Now more than ever, you notice how old Masato looks, and how much the deeds of his life and the care he's provided you has weighed upon him.
Takakage wants to say like 100 different things. He doesn't know which one he should say. Thank you, or to like bow deeply and show his gratitude for what Masato has done, or is it to fly into a fury and be enraged at him for having kept this from us for so long? But he doesn't say anything. He reaches down again and like mechanically takes a sip of the tea.
Kikuya sits still as a statue, her breathing even. The tears stream down her cheeks, but she does not seem to notice. And she silently is mouthing words, although you can't quite make them out.
Satomi is just the whole time that his master was speaking. Before his world has changed utterly, he's just staring at the bowl of half-finished stew before him. He doesn't look at Masato, but he quietly says, "While I was out by the pool, I smelled something and it struck a memory in me." And he would look up and you would see like his eyes red rimmed as he holds back tears. He goes, "Did not make sense to me then, but it does now. It was a memory."
He nods.
And he would probably not finish it because, as I guess he would maybe lock eyes with Masato, they would know that memory that he faced, the burning and killing of his family.
Time reveals all things, my son. As much cruelty as kindness. You will come to know this.
As a sign of reverence, Satomi would just push back from the low table and he would bow to Masato.
Masato grabs his tea with both hands and quells his shaking and at the tea, savouring it. Forgive me. Forgive me for what I thought I did was right. Oh, I knew it would cause pain. Pain is inexorable in this life.
Takakage sees Satomi bow, and he knows that that's wrong, that we are like the scions of this great house and that we shouldn't bow to a retainer like Masato. He knows that like legally and like correctly, it's not the right thing to do. But still, he sees the gesture for what it is, and he feels like he wants to do it too, but he can't bring himself to, so he just takes another stoic sip of tea.
Masato locks eyes with you as he senses your thoughts and meaning. He'll let forward a smile of reverence, nods. You follow the way of Bushido, he says, my son Takakage. I know, as you do, a man cannot live under the same sky as one who has injured his lord or father, or both. I feel your anger like a hearth beneath the floor. But anger burns both in turn. You will come to know this in time. He'll put down the tea and rise at this. And then he'll do something he's never done before. He'll straighten himself, collect his thoughts, prostrate himself with his palms touching the floor out before him, touch his forehead to the floor before you. I am your master no more. You are masters each of your own destiny. If it is your wish to go to Tajiri and fate, then I am a rock against the waves of your will. I will wait for your return, he says, and find joy in it. Now, I am old, and I must rest. These thoughts have made me weary, and the night is young. If you have nothing more to say, then I will go. And he looks between each of you a couple of moments to lock eyes with you.
Thank you.
He bows again.
Takagage like takes a sort of shaky drink of the tea.
Masato will turn and move to walk from the living room.
At his back, he would not see it, but Satomi would have come to his feet and he would almost take a half step towards his old master and reach out a hand to maybe stop him, to make a blind plea upon him. But he stops and he turns back to his brother, maybe a little flush of embarrassment.
Good night, my children. And he'll slide the door shut behind him, and you can hear his thongs clatter off up the hallway into his quarters. A piece of sap ruptures from the low brazier that cooked your dinner, fracturing the silence. The fish head looks up from the broth, and the night passes. We'll just take a quick 2-minute break there, and then get back into the next scene.
Sounds good.
Hey, so Nico, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
So my guy is built off of like a monk. So I'm wondering, can I use a bow staff? But so a lot of martial artists will train with wooden mock-ups of the weapons they use. But I'm thinking Satomi would actually. So a nagamaki is a weapon that often nobles would use. It's like a staff with like a short sword on it. Could he use one that's all wood, a training one, but I use it as a bow staff?
Sure. You can do whatever you want.
Perfect.
I'm just looking up a picture of a nagamaki now. I would not want to get hit by that.
Yeah, it's funny because the samurai it's built off of a naginata, which is a longer spear with a longer blade, and it was seen as a woman's weapon because it was so long. It wasn't a test of your courage if you used it because you would hit the foe from so far away. So it was called a woman's weapon. But then the samurai said, "Well, we'll just cut it down a little bit because it's a really effective weapon, and then we'll therefore make it more honorable to use." It's pretty cool.
I wanted to give that old man a hug so badly.
Yeah. That was so great, though, Lloyd,
broke my
the way
heart.
you played that out. I mean, it was so awesome because it's true.
Just an awkward sort of social status thing, right? Where like you can't express like gratitude now because I know that he's my servant or he's our servant or whatever. And now like the social class has changed and you can't really express any like emotion at all, really.
Well, not even that. Like all the training we've had over all these years comes crashing down on us as we have a whole new understanding of why he was training us the way that he was. You know, he's training you to be a lord. You know, probably teaching you not only in the fighting with the sword, but those things that you would need to know if you're a lord of a house. Yeah.
I took the entertainer background, so I get like proficiency with a musical instrument and a performance skill. I figured that would have been part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the next morning, there are birds in the woods calling out for things to rise in the daylight. Mist settles on the brook of loping carp. And already Masato-san is cooking as you awake. He presses broad leaves wrapped around cakes of rice to each of you for the journey he knows that you will take. You're not sure if it's just the sadness of your parting or something more that hangs heavy over him. It's hard to tell with this old master of his features. After he's handed the last parcel, he collects his gnarled walking stick, takes a few steps back, looking, allowing himself some pride. A fine sight, he says. Your father, Hamato Yoshi, would be proud.
That morning, Takage would have spent some time taking like a bamboo cane and fashioning a sort of banner for himself, like that he can tie onto his back, and he would take that little green blanket and like try and get it to fan out so it would, you know, the traditional sort of samurai banner, but it would be of that green Hamato symbol.
He notices this and smiles as he sees you sporting it, and through the blurry vision or lens of memories, he sees Yoshi standing armored for battle in his glory. You are the image of your father, he says. Though your enemies will mark you by the symbol you bear.
Good.
He gives that same painful wince from last night, but quickly recovers the expression of his face. If it is blood you seek, my son, you will find a river of it.
You said that anger could burn both. They shall burn for what they did to my family.
He nods. There is no other way for your father and mother's restless spirits to seek peace, but by the vanquishing of their enemies and the justice brought to their murderer, Arokasaki, and he spits the word.
I will see it done.
And I will go with you. You can see that Kikyo is paler than usual. She dreamt last night of flame and of the smell of perfume and the feel of cool, delicate hands on her forehead. Hands that she's never seen. But she lifts her chin and nods over at Takekaki. I will go with you.
I think he looks to Masato for a second, and then to Satomi, and then to Kiko. And there's obviously a look of disapproval there, like he doesn't want that.
Masato turns to you, Satami. Your brother and sister, they have chosen the way of the blade and forsaken the path of peace. Will you walk with them or away?
He looks outside and he sees some cherry blossoms falling from a tree. It's peaceful, serene. Then he looks back at his brother and sister. I will not leave my brother and sister. The Buddha teaches us that we should not take life. But he also teaches us that no man should put himself above any other. It's not right what happened to our family.
He nods, as if perhaps he already knew this. Very well. And he steps back and folds his arms, looking at each of you, made ready. Then go, live in honor, and return to me. You'll watch as you guys walk through the weeds, swaying in the breeze, away from the ruins of the temple. And he'll watch for a long time after you disappear. Although the wind is sweeping about playfully, it's not that which stings his eyes and causes tears to drop down. The forested area becomes lighter as you make your passage through. Leaving not too long after dawn, you've made good speed upon the paths through the forest, keeping the river to your right, making your way north. The sky is clear. There's wind that plays through the woods, causing all the leaves to sing together in a rustling harmony. You see a fox run past your path forward, a good omen. And it's about mid-afternoon when you come to a clearing. You see rice paddies below. You see smoke lazily climbing out of a low bamboo hovel. Beyond a fence or a shaggy dog barks. You can see birds and cages, chickens at their scratching. People barefoot with sais in their hands, working in the muck. Beyond, you can see buildings grouped closely together. The small town of Tanjiri stands before you. People look up from their toil as they see you walking down the thoroughfare towards the township. Rather than wave in greeting, smile, or a nod to the obvious samurai at the fore of the trio, they recoil and move away, avert their gaze, and look for more work The dog barks, but whimpers as you grow close, and moves to the other side of its yard, eyeing you. The town bustles, though not what you'd expect for a town of this size. You can see where a stream cuts away from the river and feeds nearby this town, looping about a low hill where a mill stands and bamboo paddles churn with like this, the low current of the stream. Near the rhythmic creak of the wood, the sploshing of water churns the machine inside. Farmer looks up from a field of millet, scything it down like so many enemies. He'll pull his round hat down over his eyes and turn his head from you as he sees the weapons at your side. The day's grown warm despite the breeze, and you're parched and dusty by the time you come to the central thoroughfare of Tanjiri. You see a man with a stall, a bamboo pole, holding aloft smoked fish, trying to pilfer his goods to those who walk past. As he looks you up and down from head to toe and sees your weapons, clears his throat and finds somewhere to busy himself. You can see on the opposite side of the thoroughfare from the smoked fish cellar, a large double-storied bamboo building, curtains flapping in the breeze, the doors standing open, obscene laughter coming from within, the jangling of cups, sloshing of liquid, the smell of food, delightful food, much more Moorish than anything you've tasted in the last decade and a half. Someone swears, and there's a cacophony of laughter. There's an indignant yelp from a woman within, met by more laughter. You can see a man carrying sticks bundled around his back in a rope walk past, look towards the building, and shudder. You can see from a wooden pallet that swings with the breeze out the front of this double-story building, there's a crane painted in faded blue across it. And again, a peal of laughter breaks off, sinister and floating.
Takakage will make his way to the opposite side of the street from that large building, and like lean on a building or on a pole outside of the building in one of the porches or whatever, and he'll take out one of those leaves and quietly eat the rice a little bit at a time, just watching and listening. And he's looking for more people like that man with the sticks who walk by that building, and he's trying to gauge what their reaction is when they walk by.
You can see an old woman with like a braided rope around a goat's horns, and she's pulling it closer to the blue crane. She does not enter the building, though walks towards the back, and you see a shudder go through her as the laughter peels off again from within, sound of many voices. The goat seems reticent, as if it knows its fate, as she struggles with the thing, yammering at it toothlessly in indignation as she struggles against the stalwart goat. It bleats and like pulls its head. She grasps it with bony old hands and pulls it. Come along, you damned thing. Best not to keep the hungry waiting. Where's my food? You hear a voice call out from inside. I am hungry, wench. Where is the meat for which I've asked? Bring it, or there will be more beatings. A meek voice comes from within. Yes, of course, great sirs. Grandmother will be along with it shortly. The grandmother outside hears this and looks back more frantically to the goat now, pulling the thing, though it digs its cloven hooves into the turf.
He's gonna walk across the street to the grandmother, and just next to her say, calmly, you don't have to serve these people. I will deal with them.
Oh, she like drops down to her hands and knees. The rope goes out of her hand, and like the goat begins to move away from her at speed. She puts her palms down into the muck and presses her forehead to the ground. Oh, please, no more trouble. Tanjiri is seeing too much trouble. They will kill you,
Rise. Come, up. No need.
takes her some time, and you hear like the arthritis like summoning groans from within the old woman as she rises, and but does not meet your gaze, looking down at her clasped hands and grimy feet.
How many of them are there, grandmother? How many?
She will not speak of fear, though you see where she unclasps her hands and holds out her palms and fingers wide stretched, 10 digits extended.
Takakage thinks that a sparring match with Masato is roughly equivalent to fighting 10 men at once. And he nods slowly.
My niece, she dwells within there. Please, great master, do not let her come to harm. If you would bring anger into the Blue Crane.
No harm will come to her.
She relaxes at that somewhat, but not completely. You see her like look to her periphery and then a slight jerk of her head towards where the goat like clatters away. But she looks back down and will not shame herself by like rushing away from it or breaking decorum as she stands addressing what she assumes to be a samurai.
I'll look in the direction of the building, like look up at the windows and like gauge if it's possible to get in there. And I'll actually just ask her, is there a back door to this building?
Yes, master, she says. I was to take a goat for slaughtering. I can show you the way, she says.
Not me, my sister. And he'll like look around for Kukio.
Noble lady, there is offal there. Corpses of beasts. It is a grimy place, not fit for one such as yourself, she says, taking you for a noble lady, despite your Spartan attire.
Kiku gives her a small smile and says, I assure you, I will not be troubled. Show me the way.
They will beat me. They will beat me if I do not take the goat in. They are hungry already, she says. This goat was to be their dinner already, and she looks up at the sky, fretting nervously. But the thing is, unwilling to meet its end.
I think they will have other things to distract them from the lack of a goat.
She gulps at that and bows and will gesture for you to follow her.
Kiku will look at her brother almost questioningly. Taka, what shall I do?
Get into a position and hide and wait. I will be loud. They will come for me.
You are always loud.
Only when I choose to be. Satomi! He would call for his brother who's like running around.
Yeah, you would probably snap him out of some sort of. He's obviously we've never been in a village even this size, so he's probably kind of doing one of these things where he's looking around at everything, and when you yell, you kind of snap him back out of that, and he gives you Tuck. Yes, Tuck.
There are bad men in this building. We're going to have to deal with them and save these people from their tyranny. It's what Bushido demand. Can you do that? You will have to kill. Or I will have to kill. You will have to hurt.
Buddha teaches that we must protect ourselves and protect those that cannot protect themselves. And he would smile at the older woman, missing the whole exchange that might have hinted that maybe this grandmother was the grandmother that the woman that he had met was speaking of. And he would bow to just do a nice little head nod to her. And he would take the goat from her.
Grandmother, what is upstairs in the building?
There used to be rooms for sleeping, master, she says. But now, she looks down at her feet, And you can tell that there's something shameful to be said as she's wary of mouthing it.
Understand.
They keep... Up there, they keep... And she looks down at her feet, shaking her head.
And Takagage wants to send Satomi through the upstairs so that he can appear, but he also doesn't want to expose his brother to that. Maybe a little less worldly than Takagage is. You'll come with me then, Satomi.
He would bow to his brother Tak.
Kikyo, you're able quickly to round on the goat, corner it, grab the braid, and pull it in close, such that it's limited ability to struggle. More strength and litheness than the grandmother. You can pull the goat towards the back door of the blue crane. This way, good lady, she says. Well, grandmother, where's that goat? The block is hungry, not so hungry as those within. They will beat us harshly. Quickly, I hear you out there. Come in.
Kikyo enters just behind the grandmother, a finger to her lips.
There's a skinny, tall, bald man with a few teeth in his mouth. One of his eyes is discoloured and grey, the other regards you shrewdly. What is the meaning of this? You know those men will beat us severely. That girl should be upstairs.
I go where I choose. Speak quietly.
Oh! He exclaims at that. He'll put down his cleaver amongst the gore of his cooking and put his hands on his hips. No woman goes where she pleases in Tanjiri these days, unless she wants a beating or worse. You have the look of trouble about you, he says.
It is my good fortune not to be from Tanjiri.
You're looking for work?
Merely silence for the moment.
He raises the eyebrow of his good eye. This noble lady, she helped me with the goat, exclaims the grandmother, telling the cook. She haul the horned thing in, still resisting, but the end of the cord is wrapped firmly around Kikyo's hand.
I'll start to make my way towards the door of the place with Satomi next to me. Really loud noise from the wooden sandals that I wear as I walk out of the porch and then into the establishment itself.
As you two walk up the steps through the sliding door and into the blue crane, you can see men in faded purple kimonos with weapons lazily within reach about them, sprawled across the room in shameful poses, bellies hanging out or reclined with knees up, wholly devoid of decorum. One man sits, top notch bound high, with crescent glasses resting on his nose, his smiles revealing brown cornrows of teeth as he laughs, spitting rice from his mouth. As this man in the center, with faded black and yellow robes, with arms outstretched and wild hair, dances about. Oh, a bird flaps here, then there, up, then down, whoop! And the fool falls backwards onto his backside, lifting a table up and sending one of the cups of sake up into the air. A man in a purple kimono reaches for it, spilling much down to the ground before looking down into the cup to see what's still there. Aha! He smiles and drinks it down, and his companions clap and laugh at the fool's behavior, dexterity of their companion. Ha 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 ha! The group of men roar with laughter. Upstairs, you can see dust filtering in from the bamboo flooring at your head. The sounds of grunting beyond and distress, though it's largely unheard, cut under the din of this shameful afternoon revelry and drunkenness. is like a dagger through the heart of this frivolity when wooden thongs, 2 pairs, clatter onto the floor of the blue crane. The door shuts behind. There's just the sound of this like pewter mug clattering that once held sake from where exasperated warriors dropped it down. The man with the crescent glasses looks up, raises a hand to his companions. What do we have here?
Takakage will ignore and like look for a table. He'll like, with the most patronizing samurai look possible, will like look at each of them and their weapons and decide that they're worthless. And when he's like had a look at all of them, making eye contact, then he'll like try and find a table where he can go and sit. He'd actually like turn his back, showing that he's like not afraid of these people. And like trying to find a table.
The glasses stands up, knocking over his cup of sake at that. Turn your back to me, would you? At that, the men nearby to him begin to rise or reach for their weapons with the click of wood and steel. Don't you know? This is Purple Dragon gang territory. If you want to drink here, come, kiss my feet.
Takakage will like keep his back to them, and he'll like slightly turn his head. I'm simply here for a quiet drink. Do not make me unsheath my blade.
Quiet drink, says the yellow and black fool. But loud footsteps. And he gives you this wild-eyed look. His hair bouncing. The other men seem to disregard him now and not finding any joy in his tomfoolery. The man with the crescent glasses, his eyes like form these slaty slits as he levels his gaze on you, grimacing.
I'll put my hand.
This fool and this bald boy a lesson. Ohiri, says one of the men. He nods. This large man with some stubble about his chin will walk forward, followed by a skinnier man.
I'm waiting for them to get.
You can hear it breathing and lumbering behind you. The skinny one looks up to you, Satami. You're a little taller than him. Menacingly, he cracks his knuckles, and you can see that there's a band of burnished bronze about his knuckles and 4 fingers as he makes fists, waiting to unleash violence. You can see the big man standing behind your brother. It's this big piece of wood, much notched in his hand, and he slaps it down into his hand. My captain Ohiri is speaking to you, scum.
Takakage is waiting for him to make a move, and when he does, he's going to step to the side and let him like swing clumsily forward with the big weapon, and he's going to then like step behind and push him so he falls into the table where Takakage is. But he's waiting for that moment, and so for now he says, I would sit down if I were you, or you will be quite embarrassed.
That he like lifts up his cudgel and goes to bring it down on your head. You swing aside and it smashes the cup of tea before you sending like the hot liquid like sprawling about and tiny fragments of pewter into the air. He looks wide-eyed as you just kind of almost disappear from view as he like brings this cudgel down. The center of the table like cracks and goes slightly inward, though does not bust it down. And you get your ready to action.
Yeah, I'm gonna basically like try and step behind him and like kick the heel of my wooden sandal into the back of his knee so that he collapses into the table. So athletics maybe or something.
Yep.
20 all up.
Yeah, you kick out with a woodblock sandaled foot. It smashes into the side of his knee and sends him sprawling down prone to the ground. At that, the skinny man will step forward and go to punch you. You duck as it whooshes over your head.
I'll just try and hit him. Like I'm going to take the sword out of the scabbard. I'm just going to hit him with the scabbard if I can.
Sure. Improvised weapon.
Yeah. That's a 13 on the die. And
that'll hit.
Just okay, yeah. What is that? D4?
Mm-hmm.
plus strength, right? So it'd be 4 bludgeoning.
So the skinny man with the brass knuckles like swings at your head. You duck under it and pull your sword free from the belt, still in scabbard, and with a double-headed strike, whack it over his head. There's this like clattering snap of a noise, and he reels back, going cross-eyed for a second. The fool laughs macabrely as he sees these 2 men made fools of.
I do not want to fight. Best for you all that I don't take out this blade.
Oh, then you should not have come here, says Crescent Glasses. And he just points like a gnarled finger towards you. And there's this flurry of activity. You guys can roll initiative.
Perfect. With your permission, Nico, I would have liked to have had maybe a held action. Thinking that Tak could handle himself, but so much like he has this bow staff that it looks like a nagamaki. He also has a short sword or a wakizashi that is also a training one made of wood. So he would just quick. That's what he would have ready to pull out from tucked in his belt to smack at that little guy. But I'll roll my initiative. Yeah.
Okay.
Shit.
The camera pans over Takakagi's shoulder, and you see at the entrance to the kitchen a woman's face peering in, the men's backs all to her, as Kiku is ready.
Satami, you can take your ready to action.
Yeah. So Satami, it doesn't say anything. He just wordlessly explodes into action. I'm actually going to retcon what I said. Probably would make more sense for him to use the staff because he already had it out. So he would just swing this to. So had you said the thinner guy was like kind of doubled over as Tak smacked him?
Yeah, he's just been smacked in the middle of the head, right between the eyes, and he's like recoiling backwards at this stage.
Yeah. So as he recoils back, Satami kind of spins this really quick, and he tries to crack him in the back of the head with his staff. Wow, I'm gonna re-ink these dice. 14. So that'd be a 19 on the die.
That hits.
And that is going to be for 9 bludgeoning damage.
You crack his skull. This thin line of blood like snakes out of his nose. His eyes stay cross-eyed, and there's as he just crumples to the ground.
Much to my brother's dismay, Nico, he's going to try to hit with bludgeoning force because all of his weapons are bludgeoning type. So he's trying to like hit those pressure points that Masato had taught to try to knock him like senseless. So if it's at all possible, he's going to try to do as much non-lethal damage as possible.
Yeah, he falls down unconscious.
Yeah, and as he does that, there's also like this blur of his green trousers as his foot comes up out of his sandal, and he drives the heel as he kind of dips his nose down towards the gut of the other one, because he can, as a bonus action, he's going to do an unarmed strike. And that would probably going to miss. That I think is an 11.
Yeah, that'll miss. Seeing Knuckles just like dispatched so easily, crumpling to the ground, the man who just smashed his cudgel into the tableware a moment before Takakage had sat kind of recoils just in time so that your seeking foot just like scratches or like whooshes across the front of his kimono but doesn't wind him. "You'll pay for that, bold boy," says Cudgel. He'll like regather himself, grab the cudgel in two hands and like swing across at chest height into you. 13 to hit.
So he would get his staff there just in time, but he probably knocks him back a little bit. Like he kind of slides a little bit across the wood floor. Just miss.
One of the men sitting next to Ahiri, the squinter, grabs for the spiked mace at the table. There's like a crunk, as like pulls it from the table and rushes up towards you, Takakage, and with two hands will like swing the mace for your belly. You bring up the katana. You're pushed back a few inches. It does not smash you with the mace. He grits as you grit, testing strength against strength. It is your turn to act.
I will move back and let him move to the side and let him like swing down. I'll pull the katana free, and then the lock is actually from the scabbard next to it. And I've attacked twice. I've rolled. Is he between me and Satomi?
I imagine you guys are next to each other.
Yeah. Okay. So I can get a sneak attack off.
Yep, that's right.
So I wrote my lowest was a 16 to hit of the two attacks.
That hits.
Which I think will do it. Yeah. So then I got for the first, which would be the sneak attack, would be 11 plus 3, 14.
Describe what happens to him, the ruffian.
So he like we're like holding the blades, and he's holding the mace. But then Takagagi can like sense how much force he's putting into it, and just like steps to the side and moves the blade. And as he like kind of falls forward, the whack is actually just across the back of his neck, enough to end him. He'll then strike out towards the man with the cudgel, if he's still standing, which I think he is, next to Satomi. And that one will be 9 slashing.
Can I get a D10, my lord?
Yes, sir. 7.
He raises up the cudgel to try and fend the blow. The Wakazashi scores him deeply across the forearm, giving him disadvantage until the end of his next turn.
Perfect. So it's just his blur. A spray of blood from the ruffian, and then a spray of blood from the cudgel-wielding man.
Kiko is going to lock eyes with you, Takakage, the yellow and black fool. He'll step from foot to foot, swinging his arms about like a raving lunatic, trying to distract you. Can you please make a wisdom save?
14.
He blathers nonsense and tries to distract you. Your mind is stone beneath the pool, and you shun out his idiocy for now. Kikyu, you walk through the kitchen, past like broiling fish heads, slabs of meat, pots of rice, past 2 large vats of sake. Swishing aside the curtain to peer beyond, you can see the backs of several men in faded purple kimonos burst into action as your 2 brothers standing near the front of the Blue Crane tea house's bottom floor. Just cut down these men as a melee ensues. No one within has noticed you. The grandmother like peers over your shoulder, worried, and the cook puts the hands up to his ears, shaking, worried at what's going to happen.
Kikuyo pulls 2 sai, this pronged blade, almost a cudgel in some ways. It's faceted. She puts one in each hand and merely nods to the grandmother. and she'll cross the room quietly, swiftly, coming upon the man closest to the door.
He's a bald man with a long rat's tail pleated down the back of his head, a sprawling belly that pokes out with belly button where his folds of his kimono loosely and shamefully open near to there. He's reaching for a knocked staff leaning against the corner of the back wall of the blue crane, frantically reaching for this weapon as he sees violence happening, eager to act on behalf of his master. He'd be the closest to you.
Her grip shifts on the sai, and it becomes a bludgeoning weapon. She brings it against the side of his head for 8 damage.
Roll a d10 for me, please.
One.
There's a crack as the butt of your sai iron hits him in the temple and sends him sprawling into the corner, like the bamboo corner walls where his staff was laying, and he hits the front of his head on the wall, leaving like a splinter in it, like a depression in the wood, and then slumps groggily and heavily to the floor, blood leaking from the side of his head and his eardrum.
Kikyo is almost taken aback, having only sparred with her brothers, and she's shocked that he fell so easily. She thinks she's been well trained.
The honourless Ronin, who's rising to his feet nearby, the Squinter, sees this in his periphery, though he's already marked his foe. He cannot fight anyone before he fights the other samurai. And he'll draw his blade with one hand and then grip down the bottom of it with his left. Jump up onto the top of the table and rush towards you, Takakage, and swing down, trying to decapitate you. 14 to hit.
That misses.
You see him coming in your periphery, or maybe you sense him, or the great clatter that he sends up, but you swing your head to the side and the motion becomes slow and you feel this as the blade hums, seeking but not finding past your ear. Knuckles is down, so we'll go to Ori the Squinter. He puts his hands to his mouth and calls, looking to the ceiling, "Katsuo! Katsuo! Trouble!" And he'll reach down into his belt and pull forth these 2 big, like forearm width and long nunchaku. And he'll begin swinging them around. And he'll rush towards you, Kikyo, while you've just knocked this man down into the corner. He'll try and swing the nunchaku into the back of your shoulder blades where they meet, trying to wind you from behind. 19 to hit.
That will hit.
Take 6 bludgeoning damage. Feels like you've just been slammed by a log in the back. You feel a crack in your vertebrae, and the wind is like summoned out of you by this brutal strike, and he grimaces cruelly, like one who would hit a woman, only like one who hits a woman can.
The air is forced from her lungs, and her brow furrows at the unexpected blow from behind.
The drunkard gets up from his cups. He'll rise, pulling a cruel dagger from within the sash of his kimono, and pick up his mug of sake with the other. He's going to rush towards you, Satami, and hurl it at your face. Can you please make a con save, DC 13?
Sorry, to me?
Oh, sorry, I said Satami, Lionel.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got a 14.
So he throws this cup of warm sake, but you bring up your forearm, warding your eyes and face from it, smashes on your elbow and sends the warm liquid spraying about, but not in your eyes. He'll follow this up by rushing towards you and trying to drive his dagger into your belly. As he thrusts, I imagine you step aside, wrapping your arm elbow loop around his forearm and then striking down with the butt of your other hand, sending the dagger clattering to the floor from his hand as he fumbles it.
I thought for sure that was going to be a nat 20.
It's your turn to act, sir.
All right. Perfect. He's right there. So as Satomi reacts to this, the attack is actually pretty surprising to him. And so he steps, and as he kind of claps down on this guy, he I want to say that his bow staff kind of falls to the floor, leaving him having to quickly draw his wakizashi, or the training one, and he'll just kind of just a quick motion try to thunk it into him. So yeah, he'll miss with a 9 as he swings, maybe overcompensates. I could still make an attack with a martial art attack with even if I miss. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. But he'll try to bring his knee up into the man's belly. That's much better. That is a 17 for 7.
Yeah, there's the sound of like the wind rushing out of him, wet and painful. 7 bludgeoning. Give me a D10.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to add 10. I get to add my ability bonus to my martial arts attacks.
Yeah, he's winded, so he'll lose his reaction until the end of his next turn.
Perfect. So he would leave his staff where it fell to the floor, and he would move quickly to try to aid his sister, who looks like she's set upon by that cruel squinter.
Okay, so if you want to get to where your sister is, she's facing off against Ohiri the Squinter at the back of the room, next to the prone form of the belly laugher. In between you and they is Kido the Fool, stepping from foot to foot. He doesn't appear to have any weapons in his hand, though you mark him as a foe. Are you still willing to rush past him to get to your sister?
Yeah, I'll take the chance. I mean, it looks like
the tree grows and the tree falls as he like puts out a foot to try and trip you as you rush past. Can you make me a opposed athletics check, please, my lord?
Love that, Nico, man. You're killing me, man.
No worries. Trying my best. 15 is your DC.
Yeah, no, he's gonna get me.
Yeah, so you rush past him and he like puts his arms up like someone who's like seeing a fight break out but doesn't want any part of it. Though as you walk past him and he says this, like muttering insanity, he puts out his foot and his sandal meets yours and poof, you go cluttering to the ground.
Yeah, so I imagine I would still have movement. Thankfully, I took the athletics feat, which only takes 5 of my movement to spring back to my feet.
Oh, nice. So ninja.
Yeah, so that's what it is. He kind of rolls like breakdance style and pops back up on his feet, and will use the rest of his movement to get as close to Kiku as he can.
Okay, the cudgel wielder rounds upon you, Takakage. He's going to move around so that he's flanking you shamefully with the Ronin to allay his disadvantage. So it'll just be a straight strike to the back of your head with the cudgel. 14 to hit. That's a miss, right?
That's a miss. AC 16.
You hear it coming and whoosh, whooshes past the back of your head, but to avoid it, you have to like lean in close and your blades clash again with the Ronin. Steel grinding on steel. Man against man. And it's your turn.
It grinds for a second, and then Takakage spins backwards and slashes with the shorter blade, and connects with a natural 20 against the Ronin. I had pre-rolled it for a sneak attack, but I don't have it because Tommy's gone. So it'll be 14 slashing.
Okay, roll me a D10 and a D20. I'll have the D10 first.
D10 is 6.
Uh-huh.
And the D20 is a 15.
Okay. So you cut him badly across the belly, forcing him to like clutch at the wound, gritted teeth that blood seeps through. He is easy to hurt and gains vulnerability to bludgeoning damage. He also has disadvantage until the end of his next turn from the savagery of your wound. He's swaying on his feet and bleeding so much, though still is dangerous as the cut snake.
So seeing that, Takakage lashes out with his other blade. You wouldn't be able to know he's vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, so he would just try and cut him. He gets a 16 to hit.
There's on 1 hit point, so you can describe what happens.
So that brutal slash, and he maybe he brings his sword low and he bends over to like hold on to wound, but it's all that Takakage needs before he is able to draw the the short blade across his throat, and he falls down into the rushes on the floor here in the bar. Before he like rounds, wild-eyed and shouting "Oi!" At the cudgel wielder.
Yeah, just beneath you can hear this like wet mewling and like gasping. His blood is vomited out from this guy's mouth and throat slit, and soon he shudders no more. Kiko the Fool will move over, pick up one of the chairs that's been discarded. Why don't have a seat? And he'll rush up behind you and try and smash it over the back of your head. Satami, improvised weapon attack. He'll have advantage because he's flanking. Oh no, yeah, he's flanking you with the squinter. It's going to be a 14 to hit.
So at the last second, Satomi kind of clenches and it hardens his skin just enough, and the chair kind of cracks, but it glances off him. My AC is 15.
And sends bamboo splinters like shattering about the room. Kikyo, you see this happening before you. Here is a squinter trying to harm you, and behind him, your older brother, and then obscuring your view of Takakage's melee beyond, this yellow and black fool dancing about from foot to foot, maniacal and varying levels of lethality. What do you wish to do?
Kikyo sees the squinter for the moment as the greatest threat. 15 to hit with her right hand.
That hits.
And a little higher with the left. So she has her pair of sais, and the one goes up and the other goes down. It's going to be 11 damage total.
Okay, from two sources. So that'll bloody him. Blood spills out the corner of his mouth as a sai goes down into his collarbone, and another one up just beside his belly button. As you pull them out, there's like there's like blood sprays, hot and vital, across you. His eyes go from like squinting through these like archaic glasses to just wide horror of surprise and pain. Feels woozy and sways on his feet. There's a garbled Katsuo! Katsuo! And then he crumples down, clutching his belly into a fetal position, bleeding out. We see his like head on the ground, eyes open, the glasses have come off, and blood pools about them. Do you wish to do anything else, Tay?
That's it for me.
The Ronin chokes to death on his own blood. So here the squinter leaves this world. The drunkard, he has no reactions. He was going to follow you, Satami, who would hit him. He'll move over and collect the dagger and then rush towards you. He's going to try and stab you in the chest with it, reaching it up with a raised fist, and it's like pointing out the bottom of his fist, and he brings it down like a hammer strike, seeking for your heart. 16 to hit. I believe that's a hit.
That will hit.
Slashes across the front of your kimono for 3 piercing damage. Blood spills out. The stain of life. And he'll stay where he is, locked in melee combat with you, or mortal combat. So, Tommy, you're the next to act.
Well, he's not going to wait long, as two quick attacks are going to happen. So is he close? So is my sister near me as well as these chumps?
That's right. She'd be 10 feet from you, but she's not adjacent to this guy. He's rushed up behind you.
Okay, so I won't get sneak damage. But that's 15 to hit against the
drunkard. That hits.
All right.
Yep.
And that's going to be, so I don't get the sneak damage, so I'm going to only do 4.
Okay. He's very bloodied, nearly slain from that. As you crack him about the jaw, it sends him reeling. He sees stars, though he's not vanquished yet.
So as he kind of fades off, he spins and he tries to drive the back of his elbow into the man's temple with his martial art attack. And that is going to be a 13.
That's what you need to hit the drunkard.
So it just barely connects, and he hits for another 4 bludgeoning.
Yeah, there's this thunking sound like the sound of putting your thumb through a rotten melon. The man goes cross-eyed, woozy, and collapses in a heap of sake-stained robes. His eyes like flickering and his leg twitching.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for Satomi. He's going to stay. Well, he might move, just edge a little bit closer to his sister so they're closer to each other.
Sure. Yep, you're adjacent to each other. Also, if you do that, it'll provoke an opportunity of attack from the fool.
At the bastard that tripped me last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try it anyways.
From the pan into the fire! And he'll like hit you with this like broken chair leg. For a 20 to hit, like not unnatural.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Weapon. So he smacks you in the back with this chair leg for 5 bludgeoning damage.
Yeah, that's a good one. That one knocks the wind from Satomi. This guy is his bane for sure. But I'll just get closer to his sister with a little help from him.
Kage. You're the next to act. There's foes laying about you, writhing or dying beyond, like down the center of this room that's quickly becoming disheveled, food spilt and bloody. This fool dances about, swiping with this broken chair leg at the back of your brother. Next to him, a drunken man lies sprawled in pain. You can hear footsteps rushing from upstairs. The fool seems to be the only foe still dangerous in this room. Behind the curtains that Kikyo had appeared from, the grandmother is screaming.
The Kujawiler by me is dead, is he? Nico?
Sorry, he's dead.
Okay, I didn't realize. So then he would, Takagi would like step to the center of the room. And he would attack this fool. Twice I've rolled. I got a 16 and a 20 to hit.
That hits.
11 damage on each.
You describe the end of this fool.
So he's probably like dancing and like leaping from one foot to the other and like trying to distract Takagage, but there's like blood spattered on Takagage's face. He's having exactly none of it. And with a quick sort of strike, he like moves past the fool and cuts him deep into the stomach, and then like inverts his longer sword and like thrusts it behind him, and then shouts, "Katsuo!"
Oh, my last joke, not so funny. And he collapses to the ground in a heap. As if you've summoned him, the doors at the top of the staircase aloft open. And this man, broad-chested with a sprawling tattoo in lilac across his face of a curved worm-like dragon, grimaces down at the bloody scene. Men flank him from either sides and turn their hands to their weapons at their side after opening the slide. He looks down. There's sweat shining across his exposed broad chest. You can see he's corded, well-muscled and well-fed, like the men next to him. His eyes lock with yours.
Your time in this village is over. You'll leave now, like a whipped dog, and never return.
Kill them! And he just points, and the men at his side, in unison, rush forward. Roll initiative. So you see atop the stairs, these two men in purple kimonos begin to descend from their master as he laughs cruelly, deeply.
I flick some of the blood from my sword, and then I'm going to run across the wooden floor. I want to, like, if they're in a stairway, I want to basically be at the bottom of the stairway, leaving space for my siblings to come on either side of me. And I'll just like ready that as soon as somebody comes in range, I'm going to strike twice.
Okay, nice. The first to reach you is the larger of the two. He has no weapons in his hands. You can see a great ponderous belly from beneath his robes, thick tree trunk-like, almost mastodonic thighs, bare feet with sandal lines and fingers like flattened sausages. This Rikishi tries to put you in a headlock as he charges down the stairs and dives into you. Before he can attempt that, though, your red action is triggered.
Yes, sir. I got a 14 is the lowest.
That hits.
Oh, yes. So it'll be 6 from the first and 11 from the second.
You cut him twice badly. Blood begins to spill out across his bare feet and he grunts in agony, though the strength has not fled him like the more diminutive men who were so easily felled. He grits against the pain, but will still try and wrap his meaty forearms around your head and squeeze the air from your lungs. Make an opposed athletics, my lord. Your DC is 20.
Nope.
So he grabs you. Your movement is reduced to 0. He's going to do a bonus action now that he has you grappled and make another opposed strength check. Oh, no, you make a con save for this, DC 13.
15 on the die.
Nice. So you feel him like squeezing about. I imagine you just like drive one of your hands up through like the vice of his arms so that he'll have to break your wrist bones to get through to actually try and suffocate you. So you can feel like your hand, this intense pain, like someone's trying to rip it out. But for now, you're locked in somewhat equality. Katsuo, standing aloft the stairs, is going to delay. Kukio, you're the next to act.
She sees her older brother in this headlock, and with a cry, "Hey!" rushes in. 16 and 19 to hit this guy.
They both hit.
13 damage.
Describe what happens to him.
His back is exposed as he grapples with Takakagi, and she comes in, one blade hitting at the kidney and one blade hitting between the shoulders.
Yeah, the grip releases immediately. His eyes go wide and he goes to breathe. And as you rip the size out, there's like sprays out the back and he just falls, collapsing in a heap at the bottom of the stairs. Katsuo groans. And he'll reach into his sash and pull out this chain and then release his like large hand, and from it this spiked ball just hangs and swings like a pendulum of doom. He'll reach it up over his head, rush down the stairs towards you, and then unleash it when he's 5 feet, sorry, not adjacent 5 feet, like 10 feet from you, with the reach of this chain and ball, and like flings it out towards the back of your head, Kikyo, for a crit.
Oh, shit.
$11 bludgeoning damage. Can you roll a d10, please?
An 11 definitely bloodies me. It's an 8 on the d10.
You like bring your hands up to the back of your head as you're like stunned. You're seeing stars. You can taste rust in your mouth and smell something indescribable. You look down at your hand. Red flowers bloom there across it. You feel woozy. You can feel your life force fleeing from the concussive wound that is smashed into the back of your head. You reel forward, I imagine, like collapsing into the chest of Takakage. Your head is spinning. You're very bloodied. You will have a minor scar on the back of your head for the rest of your days from the chain and ball of Katsuo. After that, he's going to rush forward to close the distance so that he's adjacent to you, Kikyo. Draw a dagger from his belt. So he has the chain ball in one hand and the dagger in the other. Kukyo, it's your turn to act. Sorry, you already acted. He delayed. Satami.
Satami has made no sound this whole fight. But upon seeing that, he yells, "No!" And he runs forward. How far away is Satami from all of this?
Less than one full movement.
Perfect.
15,
So he
20
again,
max.
I'm going to love this athletics feat. So if I can go at least 5 feet, I can do like a long jump. So what he's going to do is he's going to run 5 feet, spring off of one of these tables, and launch himself in the air. And if you're okay with it, I could go. If I could go out of order,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So he's going to do like a flying jump kick at Katsuo, and then he's going to bring down the wooden wakizashi after that. So the flying jump kick is a 17.
That hits.
Yeah, and that is only 4 bludgeoning damage. And so he kicks and kind of drops maybe just a little bit off to the side, and that's going to be not as well, but that's a 13 on the wakizashi.
13 to hit, misses Katsuo. He like brings up the chain. You need to make a acrobatics check, DC 14.
Okay, I'm actually pretty good at that. Oh yeah, 19.
So as the wooden wakizashi goes out seeking to smash into him, he rips around with his chain and ball hand and tries to like swing it over the top so it loops about your blade and wrenches it from your hand. But you're too lithe and you like see the move coming, see it for what it is and swing aside, landing on your feet after kicking into him but missing with the wakizashi. Is there anything else you'd like to do, Lana?
No, that's good. I imagine that would use up his movement and his attacks. So he's
action.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Habe, seeing this, is going to level his Yari spear in 2 hands and like aim it at like navel height and give a blood curdling and rush down after his master. He's going to stand behind him and stab over his shoulder into you, Satomi. 2 hands with the spear for a 17 on the die, which is going to hit. It'll be a 20 all up. Okay, it's going to be 7 piercing damage as he stabs it into your belly.
That's just enough to knock him out. He drives it in, and he would like just grunt as he rolls back.
He pulls the spear out, and blood begins to trickle down your thighs to spatter on the ground, and then he brings up the butt of the spear to collect into your jaw. And you see the like the bamboo floor in intimate detail rising up with supernatural force to meet you and claim your consciousness. Takakage, do you see this happen? What do you do?
He looks at this insane scream, and he is going to lash out in that direction and try and save his brother. I got a total of 15 and 16.
That hits.
And it's going to be 8, and I don't have sneak attack here, right? Because I'm in the middle. So
Kikyo is next to him.
Okay, yeah. Then
is down.
Then it's going to be a lot. Then it's going to be 8 and 9 and 6 damage. So
17, 23, and 4 is 27. That's exactly what you need. Describe what happens to Katsuo.
Oh, so good. So Takakaki just loses it. And for a moment, like the calm and the steely sort of reserve of calm inside him goes away, and he just lets out this like blood curdling ki, just says yeah, and lashes out with both blades. Slashes one deep into like the arm, and then into the chest with the shorter blade, into the heart. He pulls it out and flicks the blood away.
Blood sprays out, and then we just like the camera pans down to his sandaled feet, and you see like a chain, like a ball hit the ground, dunk, and then a chain coil about it. Kukyo, you're next.
Kikyo is badly injured, still seeing stars. But she could not help but notice Satomi fall, and she will turn to the side, leaving Takakagi to his rage, and kneel beside Satomi and try and stabilize him. So it's a 12 medicine.
So you pull the sash from your own kimono, wrap it tightly around his belly, trying to tourniquet the wound. You apply pressure and drag him away from the vicious melee. Habe is left to face Takakage. And you can see his Yari shaking like reeds in the wind. You can see his weight shifting nervously from foot to foot. You see fear grip him as his eyes grow wide, threatening to shatter. He thrusts the spear down onto the ground, disengages, runs up the stairs, pulls a dagger from his deal, and pulls this screaming woman next to him with the knife to her throat. Ah! Don't come closer! I will kill! And it's your turn, Takakage.
I'll look at him with this look that I will go through that woman if I have to. Put her down and face me like a man. Do not dishonor yourself in your final moments like some coward.
Roll intimidation or persuasion.
14.
He throws the woman roughly down to the ground, brandishing the knife at you, holding the higher ground. He will face you despite his cowardice.
I will take his Yari and I will throw it up the stairs towards him.
So it's an action to persuade or intimidate him to fight. So you can definitely grab the Yari and make preparations that will take an action to hurl.
I'm not trying to throw it at him, I'm trying to throw it to him.
Oh, you can have inspiration. He'll
but
catch
I want him
it.
to like fight me with a dagger in the end.
Well, he'll rush towards you. He'll try and thrust out first with the spear going low for your thigh. It drives into the bamboo last stair, and then you bring your foot down with brutal strength and snap the spear uselessly in two, given its angle, and rips the butt from his hand. He'll use his bonus action to slash across your face with the dagger for a crit.
Oh, not my face.
It's going to be 7 piercing damage.
Yep.
And roll a d10, please, my lord.
Christ. 8.
You will bear this scar on your face for the rest of your days.
Perfect.
He cruelly smiles as he sees blood weeping from the wound on your face.
Little does he know, it just adds to my legend.
Kukyo, you see this happening in your periphery. You can see that your brother's breathing is labored, though consistent enough. It does not look like to die. And the blood that's already been spilled seeps across his kimono, though not with like the rapid speed you'd associate with an unstaunched wound. What do you do?
Kukyo will crouch, kneeling, and prepare an action that, should Takakagi be injured grievously, she will attack this man. But for now, she knows better than to interfere with her brother.
And it's Takakage's turn.
Uh, 13 and 24.
Okay, so he steps back from the 13, but the 24 well and truly catches him.
9 slashing.
Roll a d10, please.
Hang on. 7.
Slashes across his forearm badly. He recoils in pain. Sorry, with his now weaponless, spear hand. He like grabs at his like heavily bleeding forearm, trying futilely to staunch the blow, and he holds the dagger shakingly aloft, wincing at the great agony. You can see him growing paler by the second as blood pools widen at his feet. He's going to have disadvantage on attacks until the end of his next turn. Disadvantage on attacks and checks, I should say. Which he's going to use now to try and slash you with that knife, aiming for the eyes again. Crit, but then obviously with disadvantage, 5 + 4, 9 to hit.
No good.
So it just slashes out wildly, like a frantic, like useless strike, like a slash rather than a cut, as
Yes.
as Masato would say. Maybe those words come to mind, a moment of clarity through the madness. Kukio, I assume your stance is the same?
Yes. She is hearing the voice of Matsumoto in her head as she's heard him coach her brother through his training before. And she watches the dance.
Takakage.
He'll look down at this man and say, "You fought well. Don't have to die in dishonor. You can take your own life. I'll make it quick."
He spits blood through brown, corny teeth, tries to remain stern.
I'll make it quick.
Satomi reaches weakly, his hand coated in his own blood, to try to beseech his brother not to murder this man, but his voice is too weak.
Yeah, I think maybe Takagagi just barely feels like a tug on his, what's it called? The hakama, like the big wide trousers samurai wear.
Yeah.
But the sword is already in motion. So one of those is a 20. The second is a 11.
Okay, the first will hit.
8 slashing.
Whoosh, whoosh. He steps back from the first, but the second catches him, and there's this like jolt as his eyes go wide. And the camera pans down from his like sweaty forehead and disheveled hair, past his bloodshot wide eyes, past his hairy nostril and blood-filled cornrowed teeth, down past the stubble gathering on his chin to a widening line of red on his throat, and then he falls to the ground, collapsing in a heap. There's just the sound of like one pewter saucer still wobbling on a table. Drip of sake falling from tables mingled down into blood. Shrieks of the grandmother and the cook with his hands to his ears, just looking at the gruesome scene in fear. And that's where we'll take a break.
Oh my god, so good.
Yes.
Stellar, Nico, and just absolutely stellar.
I had Ennio Morricone like blaring through my eardrums for that battle. It was unbelievable.
That's my problem. I am not playing any music. What
go.
am I thinking?
I had Larina from like Kill Bill going, and it was just so good.
Right on.
I did make a playlist I can link you for this game.
Please, Domio.
If you have Spotify.
Holy crap. Your guy, it's like things fell into place so well in that battle because you're like the samurai, man. You were like totally the samurai in that fight.
Yep. I mean, I don't think I've ever felt more happy than walking into that place and just like turning my back on those dudes and like talking over my shoulder like a samurai would. I was just like so fucking pleased with it.
Can I tell you what the rational number cruncher was thinking when you and I walked into that building? What are we doing? We're level 2. There's all these guys. They have more action than us. The economy is planted to their favor.
Dude, I was bricking it too. I was like,
we did well.
Yeah.
I did it to myself. Most of the damage I took, 11 of the damage I took, I brought upon myself from
opportunity attacks.
But I think that's great. So Satomi has now learned something from this.
It's hard for me to miss at this level because I have a +5 to hit and AC tends to be low. And I get 2 attacks because I'm the dual wielder, you know, so I'm able to put out 2 attacks around, which is huge at this level, you know. Which is why I was fairly confident. But God, that was a very satisfying fight. I could picture that guy running across the table so clearly when, like, he was coming for me to run him. Yeah, so clearly.
And when that guy came down after you, I was like, oh man, I'm jump kicking this fool. And it's too bad I missed my Wakizashi strike. That would have been nice, but pretty good, pretty good.
Lloyd, the 27 points of damage was clutch. I was sitting pretty with 2 hit points. Wow. If I'd been hit, I'd have gone down, and you'd have been on your own against those 2.
Oh yeah, and I don't mind sharing this. I shared it with you guys, but I pre-rolled my first death save an 8. But thankfully Taylor came over and stabilized me.
Oh, you just feel like such a fucking rad lord being a samurai. It's so good. Because whenever I speak, I imagine it sounding like, you know, like just like this low rumble.
Yeah, in old D&D, when they came out with Oriental Adventures, man, samurai all the way. The honor system back then was so cool. I mean, it was great.
I mean, this game already has me thinking about L5R, which I've never played, but I've heard it's amazing and like, oh, it's a good setting. It's a really good sort of setting. Like, I know this isn't the L5R setting, but you know what I mean? Like, sort of mythical Japan kind of.
I love the premise of that setting. I mean, I've always been really drawn to like the Asian themed media, you know, movies, TV. So Taylor, somebody was asking in chat what our other class was besides rogue. You're straight up rogue, right?
Yeah, I'm both levels rogue at the moment, at least.
Yeah. Well, you got to take at least one more level. Don't you get that one where you can have the damage on one of the attacks that hits you every round at 3rd level? I
don't think so. It must be later.
I think that's like 5th or something.
Yep, because is it 3rd level you get your archetype.
Yeah, it's evasion.
Oh, it's uncanny dodge. Yeah, I think it is level 5. I think it is level 5. Yeah. All right, forget it then.
Dude, I'll get level 2, and then I'll get action surge, and when I get level 3, I'll become a samurai. And the samurai ability is like, for 1 round, you have advantage on all attacks. So you can do that. Wait, really? And then action surge. Yeah, it's once per like long rest or whatever, but it's for 1 round too, which is like not crazy. But if you action surge, it is crazy.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all here, Nico.
So there's the bleating of the goat, the shrieking of the grandmother, the sounds of residual destruction, sake dripping into blood, a saucer that on the table, silence outside, that yapping dog in the distance, and then Knuckles groans, "Oh," reaching for his head, sprawled on the ground amongst the corpses.
I'm gonna walk over there and put my foot on his chest.
Please, don't kill me.
Are there more of you?
He nods vigorously.
Where?
I don't know.
I'll like press a little bit harder onto his chest. Where?
Oh, they left into the woods. 2 of our gang. They followed our mistress.
You have a hideout in the woods.
Oh, my mistress. She seeks quarry there. Told us to wait. To bring our weapons to the Blue Crane. She knew there'd be violence here this day.
I'll take my foot off of him. Go and find her. Tell her. Tell her.
She left before
Hamato brings
dawn.
justice, and I'll stomp on him.
I do not know where to look. The woods abroad. I know she intended to follow the river south, to where she would not tell us.
I'm not sully my honor by murdering an unarmed man. Up and go. Find her. Or crawl back to wherever cowardly hole you came from.
He will get up and run through the paper door, out past the terrified villagers and onlookers, and like a dog barking over its shoulder as it jumps a fence in cowardice, like away from some fright. You'll pay for this! You'll be sorry!
I'll the blood from each sword and put them back with the sort of exaggerated movement, and look to the grandmother and the cook.
They're soon joined by a pair of ladies from the second floor who come down in decent kimonos, and they will fuss over Satomi as he lays on the ground. The grandmother will bring like food and drink. The cook just looks in disbelief at the destruction here. You've doomed us all. You've doomed us all, you fools. Suko Yumi will return.
Takakagi would be like sitting at one of the tables that he would have righted, and he would have taken one of the hot teas that still would be steaming, and just would like sit in that exaggerated sort of samurai manner with like legs splayed and shoulders wide, and would like take another drink of the hot tea. We will deal with them too.
Yeah, there's shock and mute silence with the onlookers here, but for the low murmuring and fussing of the women over Satomi.
Kikyo comes and sits next to Takakagi. Taka, is this a wise course of action?
What else would we do? These people need us.
Perhaps we might use words first.
I tried that.
You would hear a grunt from Satomi as he's kind of clutching at his stomach. the words you choose to use, brother. Not words alone.
Hey,
I will not debase myself by speaking up to those who are beneath me.
Satomi's about to say something, but he thinks better of it. The words he has for his brother are words best spoken private, not with the mixed crowd that is now gathered. So he just nods to his brother. He probably does one of those weak little hands up, his own blood coating it.
He'll take another sip of the tea. He's like sitting close to the door and he's like looking outside at the villages. And I guess he's still covered in blood from the various fountains that he caused. I apologize for the mess. But you're safe now from those people.
Safe, maybe. Ruined, definitely.
Ruined.
I guess then he catches the steely gaze and goes mute and gulps.
These men had taken your establishment and turned it into a house of ill repute. We freed you from that. You should touch your forehead to the ground in gratitude.
Gratitude. Sukoyumi will return and burn Tajiri to the ground. She will not abide this insult.
She may try.
Satomi would make his way over to his staff, and he would use it to like hold himself upright. His legs are weak. And he leans against it and looks to the man and says, "What can you tell us of this woman, this Tsukiyumi?"
She is fair enough. Long-haired. She's a cat in the night, he says. She is vicious, cruel. She is cunning and she is changeable. She returned yesterday. She looked as if she'd been journeying for some time. And then she left.
So she
After
often.
only being here for one night.
Oh, I'm sorry. You go.
She would say, yeah, he would just say she returned from the woods yesterday and then left this morning early before dawn and headed in the same direction. Whatever quarry she seeks out there, I am glad that I am not it. She is a cruelty to her.
So she often goes and looks to be searching for something.
Only the once. She had the look of someone who'd found it. She returned, took more of these villains with her.
Satomi would
He
catch
moves to the panel door and opens it. There, he points. She went off in that direct, and then the words get caught in his throat. As you can see it now, in the mid-afternoon, clear across the like the canopy or horizon of the forest beyond. This thin, snaking black stream of smoke seeking up to the sky from the center of the woods beyond.
There'd be a couple of steps towards in that direction. You know, you hear the clunk, clunk of the butt of his staff against the bamboo floor, and he says, "What lies in that direction?"
He shrugs. They say there is an old monastery there, ruined with age, that once Sohai dwelled there. It was a place of the spirits, of the Buddha.
Ding! The cup that Takakage was about to pick up is like knocked, and the tea spills, and his hand shakes.
I have not dwelled there for fear of the spirits, he says. Sorry, go for it.
Kiku's breath just catches in her throat. And she looks to her brothers.
Are they evil spirits, old man?
Shakes his head and shrugs his shoulders. My grandmother might have known. But I know nothing. The people of Tajiri have not gone there for some time. Like all spirits. There are good and evil, he says matter-of-factly. Perhaps both dwell there. Who can say?
Is that the direction that we came from? Yeah.
It is. It would be hanging unsaid from Satomi's mouth, I imagine, when this man points out to him that.
Oh, so knowing that, I don't know that Satomi would have necessarily. I'd probably just strike that part of the question. I didn't realize we were pointing in the direction of where we had come. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what he would do then is he would have that sinking feeling of panic as he goes forward, and maybe he catches a look from Tak, so he doesn't say anything that would divulge that that's where they came from. But he would do the part about the spirit thing, though.
Takagagi would stand and look in that direction. We have to go.
But young master, says one of the girls, your wounds are great. She points to your belly, Satomi.
Kikyo reaches a hand up to the back of her head and it comes away still sticky. The bleeding mostly stopped, but she's lightheaded and woozy.
He would have come for us, no matter what.
Then we go.
I am mostly unharmed. I can go.
Satomi goes, I can go as well, brother. And he takes a step, and after the second one, he kind of stumbles and falls to one of his knees, still gripping the staff.
No. You must stay here. I will go and bury him.
I am by your side, always. I am coming.
I can take care of myself. If they come back here, Satomi will not be able to defend himself on his own.
Kiku kind of puts her hand on yours and she leans close. She says, do not deny me the chance to bid him farewell. Nor Satomi.
He looks away towards the smoke and grits his teeth. Fine. We go now.
So you guys are all setting off. So you pass the yapping dog, past the muddy fields, over the stream, moving with as much haste as your wounds will allow. The afternoon was at its mid when you reached Tajiri. Your speed is hastened now, the urgency, uncertainty and fear. Thoughts like ghosts and specters rise up in your mind, questioning, spouting worries. It only seeks to prod you faster as darkness begins to descend on the woods, and the already cloying canopy quickly swallows up the darkness. As you move with increasing speed, a thin snail of red, and behind Satomi, you set up iridescent green fireflies in your path through the artifice of the undergrowth. Like tiny neon lights, they spray about you and soon settle to a dull glow after you've passed. The playful breeze of yesterday whips about more violently, chaotic now. The leaves seem to scream rather than their usual rustling murmurs. Your heart's pound, threaten to jump from your throat and out your parched mouths. Exhaustion is creeping in when you cross the Catfish Brook, past the old shrine, and see backlit in a glow of orange haze the ruins burning. Smoke is thick about, but through the smell of detritus and wood smoke, you smell something familiar, Satomi. Sandalwood lingers on the air. You can see a great stone shrine that once stood in like the antechamber of the monastery, and now the paper walls burnt away. It stands exposed to the moon and the glow of the fire. Naked, you see Masato, his old, ragged body, bound there in ropes while flames lick about around him. He screams in pain as this cruel man with a purple and black mask tips from another wooden beaker from this iron cauldron over the fire, the burning that burns from the fuel of your home. And he pours more over the exposed red raw chest of Masato. He's obviously been trying to hold in his screams but can no longer. Ah! Buddha! Next to the pourer, another man stands, the sword spear held aloft, keeping vigil, looking about through the woods, his vision slightly obscured by the burning orange. You see a woman you've seen before, Satomi. She looks different here. Not demure, not hunched, not subservient, but commanding, imperious. Deadly, she wends like a snake about these men, looking at the woods. Above the crackle, after Masato's scream is lingered off, you hear her speak. Do not worry, she says. The filthy scions of Hamato Yoshi will come. They will come when they hear this rat screaming. Again! And this man dips into the cauldron and pours with a wooden beaker this boiling water over Masato's chest. Ah! Buddha! I am coming! Call, she says. Call for your lord's children and I will end it. Call and they will come to you. He shakes. I will not!
Kikyo is gripping her hand on Takakaki's sleeve. We must go. Takakaki, we must go.
Satomi weakly bobs his head, his complexion very pale. Those wounds are bound. He still leaks blood as he made the journey with his siblings.
There's like fire shining in Takakagi's eyes, and you can see a rage there, unlike anything you've ever seen in him before. And his like teeth are gritting so hard that you can like hear crunching.
Satomi weakly says to you, Takakage, brother, we will see justice for Masato and the others. It is not this night. The spirits, they do not wish it. And you could just see that he's just weak and looks frail.
He like looks over the people there. He like counts them, and he sees the state that Satomi is in and how badly injured. I can never say it. God damn it. Kikuyo is, and still he's like shaking with rage. He hasn't said anything.
Did you think my master's servants would not find you, rat? Did you think you could escape? He's just murmuring mantras to the Buddha at this stage, trying to put out the pain and the noise and the sights around him. Answer me! She slaps him across the face, drawing blood from his cracked lips. I pity you, servant of the Shredder. Pity your vanquisher. What a foolish concept. Again! The masked man pours from the wooden beaker, more steaming, boiling water from the cauldron. Fresh screams rend the night, threatening to tear the sky. Sparks are sent up with the smoke.
How many are they?
The Pora, the Naginata wielder, and Tsukuyomi.
Kiko's eyes are brimming with tears, and she looks at our brother. Taka, please. Please, I fear we will not live if we stay.
He would have done it for us. He would have done it for us. He would not have let us suffer like this. He would have done it for us.
But it is different, brother. He was honor bound by our father to keep us safe. You would dishonor Masato if we die here this day.
He is doing it for us. Did you not hear him? That we might live. Do not let his death be in vain. He is beyond our help. Please, Taka. She's like almost trying to pull him away. Please. I'll roll persuasion if you want.
So I'm like stuck in a situation where I don't believe that there's any reason that Takagage would not go and fight. Like,
it is tough.
Like, I know that we shouldn't, like, on a meta level, but I don't believe that Takagage wouldn't go and do it, you know? So that's why I'm kind of struggling.
You're totally right. I mean, that's the drawback of a samurai. Honor is so important to them. Death, it means nothing. They don't fear death. So I get it.
He will look grimly, and he'll like reach for the bow that he has wrapped around him, and he'll like quietly string it and take this very, very long arrow.
Taka.
Go, I'll follow. Go.
Taka,
Go.
Satomi would grab his sister and pull her, not roughly, gently, and he would plead. He had pleading in his eyes. He doesn't say anything.
She goes with Satomi.
He like pulls that arrow and like tries to calm himself. He doesn't need the rage now or the fury. He needs calm, and he'll like breathe for a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds or something like that. And he's going to like fire the arrow and kill Masato.
Buries itself in his chest and cuts off the screams. His eyes go wide as he looks along the shaft and fletching out into the darkness where fireflies have been sent sprawling around you from the stringing and firing of the bow, like dotting you, this neon backlight. A smile of peace comes over his face. The crane soars higher. Its wings brush cherry blossom. My soul flies with it. And then his head just lolls down and his body goes lank. Tsukuyomi screams in rage and then turns, discerning the darkness, and points the long finger wordlessly. The Pora and the man standing vigil rush forward to where the fireflies have been sent up.
I'll start running.
Away or towards them?
Oh, sorry, guys. Towards them.
Roll initiative.
Oh, Lord. Damn it. Nico, are we going to be close enough to hear him engage in battle?
I think when the first person is cut, you'd hear the screams.
I can't like see him not doing it. I just can't. I have 15 as well, Nico. Do I go first or does she? I have +3 to my dex.
Yeah, it's a tie, so give the PC the benefit of going first. Yeah, I imagine that Satomi, you're running with Kikyo like supporting you, like an arm under your shoulder. When you, rather than hearing like footsteps behind you, you just hear the blade come free from its scabbard. And I think you would know then that your brother had tried to spare you. You would hear that too, Kukyo. You guys can make decisions as you will. You won't flee for your life. Put your initiative in. Under the torturer. Takakage, you see these two men running towards this cloud of fireflies. Ah! Screams a man with the naginata leveled, charging. Silent is the masked, larger man who had tortured Masato so cruelly. You see Yuki behind them, dropping low into a fighter's stance, prowling forward, reaching into her robes in like synchronized fashion, pulling forth something shiny in between each, like the fingers of each of her hands. Break from the tree line. Fireflies, green, rising up angrily in your wake as you disturb them, their mating, rushing towards certain death. The closer to you of the two would be the smaller, quicker man with the naginata, who's running with the leap-tip blade, ready to thrust at naval height. And you meet his sprint.
I've got the katana out, but with my other hand, I'm going to fling 2 kunai at him as I run. So one of them is a crit, and the other one is a 14 total.
Yeah. The first will hit him, but I think because of the savage jerker reaction to it, the second misses.
It's like a throwing axe, but it's officially it's a hand axe.
2d6, and then give me a d10.
So it'll be 8 from the damage and 5 on the d10.
Okay, I need another d10.
9.
So the axe hits him low, just like near his sternum, and knocks him off his feet, like flinging him back a few feet and into the ground, prone. And that's why the second one over his head. It's like sticking out of his belly, screaming in agony.
So I'll see that he's down, or at least no longer running at me, and then I'll pull my wakizashi and like drop into a stance and wait for the other guy to get to me.
Yuki will stalk forward from like the pyre of your hone and break into a quick sprint, not rushing to follow up her minions towards you, but like veering to the side, coming in at your left, splitting your attention between like two foes on either side. She'll use her movement and her dash and get to near the tree line, and then she'll slink back into the darkness. You can make a perception check, my lord.
22 total, 19 on the die.
Okay, she runs through like a swarm of fireflies too, and this iridescent like green glow barely illuminates her, silhouetted like crouching nearby a tree in the periphery of the action. You mark her position well. Just remind me of that if I go to attack with advantage for her for the condition.
I'll scream out at her. You can't hide from me!
The ruffian, the axe in his belly, like stands up and with a great heave, pulls it free and blood spills out beneath him. He reaches down, picks up his naginata, and will move and then use his action to close adjacent to you, Takakage. The man with the mask will walk up, reach into his like leather vest underneath his kimono, pull out this blade which curves both from like the top of his fist and below, and then break into a run. He's going to bring it up, trying to like strike up from like your navel to chin, and then back down across your face, like across the bridge of your nose or eyes, whooshing, whoosh, with this cruel curved blade in one hand. The first is easy enough to miss. You like step back and whoosh, goes wide. The second, though, for a 20 all up, slashes down the front of your face. You take 3 slashing damage, I should say, as he cuts you. You see cruel, beady eyes lurking beneath the mask.
Hamato!
Kukio, you hear this. You stop in your tracks. What do you do?
She takes Satomi's hand in hers and she says, "You are the last son. You must go. I will not leave Taka."
I cannot leave you either. And he looks pleadingly at you, begging you with his eyes. Don't do this. We all choose our own fate. Takake, he chose his.
Swear to me, we will avenge him.
I swear. By the great Buddha.
Run. We must run. And she'll put her arm around Satomi. And, helping him along in his weakened state, go deeper into the woods.
Takakage.
I'll scream.
Brandishes at your katana hand with his naginata, and on your left, your wakizashi hands, the torturer, and his cruel curved double blade. Beyond, you mark in your periphery the location of Yuki. Sorry to interrupt you, I just want to give you a visual of the lay of it.
I'll lash out towards the man with the with my katana. I'll lash out towards the man with the naginata. It's another crit. My lord. It's 10 slashing.
Okay. Oh, that kills him straight up. We don't need to roll the crit. You can just describe what happens.
head separated from his shoulders. He like rushes forward, and then there's just this, and then he like lifts it into this like overhead stance. And I'm going to use my bonus action to second wind. Yes, and that's me.
Yuki will hurl poison shuriken from the dark, the straight roll, since you've marked her location. It whirs in. You duck at the last minute and hear it thunk into a tree trunk next to you. She then breaks from the darkness, pulling the curved dagger into her other hand, breaking to a sprint to cover the ground quickly. She's going to move and bonus so that she's flanking you with the torturer.
Cowards!
How the babies come running when the father rat screams, she says cruelly. You see a flash of her white teeth against the night. Satomi, I assume you run into the darkness and away?
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to do, though, Nico, is might I make a perception roll just to see what he hears as he and his sister are fleeing into the woods?
You'd hear like the cry, "Coward!"
Of talk.
Yeah, what he just yelled then.
Oh, shit. Shit. I hate Lloyd.
It wasn't meant for you. You don't have the
Yeah,
context,
I know.
though.
No, I know that, but
God,
but
that's so bad.
you know something that's true. He might maybe. Oh, that's awesome. Like, does he think that that's? But then he's like, no, his brother.
You can
told
put whatever
them
meaning
told
into
them
that
differently.
you want.
Yeah. So he's pauses for just a second. He's in a moment of indecision. He wants to go back. He wants to help his brother. His brother needs him. He catches a look of Kiku, and he sees the same look on her face. No, they have to run. Like hand in hand, they move their way further away from their brother. I'm so sorry.
The torturer is going to try and grapple you, Takakage. Make an athletics check, please. DC is 14.
Yeah, I have expertise in athletics. I get a 18.
So he wraps his left like elbow and forearm like around your neck to try and like pull you back and then gut you, but you could like spiral out of his grasp. It is your turn.
I will slash at him with everything I've got. 15 and a 15.
They both hit.
Oh, thank God. 16, slashing all up.
I imagine 2 sword strikes like an X across his chest and belly. His guts begins to spill from it. He drops the curved blade and like reaches his hands up like someone carrying a baby. But still his belly eels wriggle free. He drops to his knees, gasping, pink froth foaming at his mouth, and he falls flat, guts into the dirt.
I will see that and I'll look over my shoulder at Yuki, and then like turn the rest of my body and bring this 2 blades up in like a defensive sort of stance. Better odds now.
I think she just smiles cruelly at that. For her interaction, she's going to reach down and pick up the torturer's double curved blade, and she's going to strike out twice. Her main hand with the double blade, and her second with the dagger in her offhand. Okay, so a 13 is probably going to miss for the first. Steel rings on steel as you drive it wide, but a 19 all up is going to hit you with the dagger. She doesn't have sneak damage, which is good for you. So you'll take 4 piercing damage. Can you please make a con save?
Yes. 11.
As she pulls the blade out of your chest, your lips immediately start to feel numb and fat. It's hard to speak. Your vision begins to grow hazy. You can still see those leering white teeth, though. She cruelly smiles. Better odds now. Satomi, just the crunch of twigs, leaves beneath your feet as you traipse further and further away. If you chance a glance over your shoulder, you see the light of the burning monastery growing smaller with each yard you make away from the horror behind.
So I don't know, and this is what insight. Satomi would like to use insight. Oh, did he?
Yeah, as you like stop putting your hand up for breath at a tree, and she like catch your breath, clutching at your wound, gritting, and then go to like gesture to your sister next to you. We must go. The words catch. She just disappeared. I guess you'd see the flicker of movement by the moonlight back the way you'd come. She disappears from sight.
Yeah. So he's going to do the same. He will dash after her. He's not quite as fast, slowed by his injury, but he's going to double his move to try to catch up to her. But he doesn't say anything.
You get to the edge of... Sorry, you go.
I was going to say maybe I could just see her bobbing image as the shadow of her image as she runs towards the house.
She's swifter than you as it is,
yeah.
But even in the state, even swifter. You get to the outskirts of the woods, the monastery. You can see backlit by the pyre of your home. Your brother cut down another foe. His head flies from his body, and another is cut open. His guts spill forth to drop at his feet. But now he seems to stagger and sway underneath the assault of Tsukuyomi. You do not hear the words exchanged between them. See the movement of their lips. You're some 60 feet from their melee.
She stays silent until she can close the gap.
Give me a stealth check. Please.
10.
Yeah, the turn of her head, like the slight inclination, tells you that she notices a foe sneaking up from behind her. She smiles. Takakage.
So I am poisoned, yeah?
Yeah, you have the poisoned condition for 1 minute. You get to make the save at the end of each of your turns, but it grows by 1, the con save.
Okay. So I rolled with a disadvantage twice, and I rolled the same thing twice, which was a 20 and a 14. So it could have been 2 crits, but it's not. So it would be it would be 19 all up to hit then for 14.
Yeah, that definitely hits. She tries uselessly, but her blades are too small to parry the longer strikes.
Ooh, yes. 18 slashing all up.
Jeez, FMD.
It's from 2 attacks.
Okay, she's bloodied. Blood spills from the side of her mouth. She clutches at one of the ruining wounds that you've wrought across her, though something tells you she's still dangerous.
Hamato!
She spits, Haruko! And then she's going to try again. Slash at you with the curved double blade of the torturer across the chest for a 17 all up, which will be D6. 8 slashing damage. She drives it into your ribs.
Ouch.
And then she spins with the dagger and jabs it in. She's going to aim for the artery on the inside of your thigh, Kukyo. All the better to poison you with. She got a 19 on the die, so that's a hit. Can you please make a con save for me?
That's 15.
Okay, you make it, grit your teeth against the poison that's seeking to flood your veins and bring you to death. You'll take half of that damage, which will be 2 poison damage on top of that. Did I actually give you poison damage as well, Lloyd, for your poison?
No.
I don't think I did. Okay. And you failed yours, so you'll take a full 3 poison damage on top of that, Takakage.
So the blade goes into Kikyo as
The
well?
first slash was on Takakage. The second, the poison dagger, was stabbed into you. Though it did not nick a vein, and so you're not poisoned.
She kind of grabs at her leg, Taka, and falls.
Satomi.
Purple.
So he's behind his sister because she's faster than him, quicker. So he would have moved 60 feet his last turn and the 30 feet this turn. So what would he see at that point?
60 feet beyond you across the weedy nighttime ground, backlit by the pyre of your home, you can see this melee between Takakage and Tsukuyomi continuing as your sister rushes from the darkness up behind using her ninjutsu skills to take out Yumi. It seems as if this villain notices and spins while striking out at your brother and sister almost instantaneously. She catches them both, and there's this bright splash of red across Yuki from your sister's thigh. She drops, clutching at it.
Yeah. As he kind of skids to a stop, seeing this horror before him, probably his worst dream coming true. His foot hits something. He looks down, and he sees the great bow of his brother, and the quiver tossed aside as he rushed forward with his swords. He quickly drops his staff. Often he would train with the bow, but he had made a promise never to use it, never to take life unless he needs to. And he would just take aim and fire. What's the damage on that? D8, right?
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir.
Please, God, don't let me miss. And he kills his brother. Well, it's not a crit, but it is a 22.
That hits.
Oh, and I get sneak damage.
Oh, baby.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Just make a stealth check for me, Lionel.
Well, because
Lloyd is next to him.
Oh, I
next to
see.
her.
Cool.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah. So that is 7 piercing with the arrow and 5 more for sneak.
She rounds on you after quickly dispatching your sister, Takakage. Do not worry. You will not be joining your master. I will be taking you to Arakusaki to be done with at his pleasure. She readies herself with this crane stance and goes to stab you through the throat, and then there's this flash of white from behind her as a goose-fletched arrow catches her in the back, looks down, and the camera pans from her described expression the way down past her lips, below her chin. The head of this arrow, barbed and cruel, poking out the other side. She drops the curved blade of the torture and puts her hands up to her throat, willing against it, shaking with fears, eyes wide. She goes to speak, but only vomits red flowers, falls to her knees, and then collapses to the ground. You turn, Takakage, see your brother advancing, discarding your bow, running. But he seems to be running slower and slower towards you. The world spins. Taste rust. Smell of earth. Sandalwood. The grass claims you. And we'll take a break there. You guys level up.
That was so awesome.
Fucking amazing.
Oh my god, Nico. Lloyd, what are you doing to me?
I had to do it.
Lloyd, that was...
All the feels. I'm having the real feels and
I
emotions
knew you
over
guys
here.
wouldn't go. I knew you guys wouldn't go unless you thought I was going with you. Had to do it.
That was great. And chat, what you don't realize is what we're writing in our own private chat, how much we hate Lloyd for putting us through that. That was awesome. You are badass. Just saying.
Very effective combination. The this character seemingly. Like I took expertise in athletics as my rogue expertise, which just means I'm real good at grappling. Which to me is like he knows karate and he knows
judo,
stuff, right?
like judo.
Judo, yeah. You know, which I think a samurai would have known very well. You know, all that sort of stuff. So what are we level 3? I got level 2 in fighter. Oh baby, action surge.
Action surge, action surge. Woo-hoo.
And I get.
I can now go 40 feet in a turn.
Wow.
I can
And
go
I get
60.
key points. Key points. You can go 60. Yeah,
if I use my bonus action.
Yeah, you're great.
That was some of the most intense game that I've ever had in my life. It's fucking unbelievable.
Oh my gosh. You're not
Taylor,
kidding.
I didn't realize you were that close. Did you not use a hit die when we were at the...
I did not get tended to by anyone, so I didn't get the benefit of a short rest, so I was still on 2 hit points. So pretty much any damage I took.
Why didn't you get someone to take care of you? That's okay, because this really makes a lot of sense, because we did a lot of this training as kids, right? Growing up, but we haven't really experienced much of the world, so we're experiencing what training versus reality.
You're not kidding.
All makes sense. Except for our brother, who's just a freaking rad lord and just carves through stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I'm leveled.
Yeah, I use Hero Lab and I just leveled. Boop. I just clicked 2 buttons. Blip, blip.
You're leveled, but you're also poisoned, so...
Yep.
Let's hope that Satomi has some good medicine skills.
I took expertise in other things than medicine. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I can definitely give her a go. I mean, I am a monk. I should know how to heal people, right? Or at least tend to their wounds. Take care of them when they're sick. I got a 10 and a 18. So I don't know what that'll be.
I'm on 7 HP. Well, I mean, yeah, 7 still.
Well, I would see triage wise, I would see taking care of Kiku would be number 1.
Yeah,
you're kind of wavering on your feet, but
there's also no way Takagaki would be like, take care of me first. Just never happened.
Oh yeah, no.
Right.
Oh my gosh, Lloyd, though, like it's feeling all the feels.
That was such a samurai thing to do, though. Go, I'll be right behind you.
Yep.
And I love the scene of us running away through the bushes and trees, holding hands, and then she kind of pulls her away. And by the time I turn around and look, she's already like gone.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was like when she heard Takakagi yell, and she's like, no, I can't.
No, can't do it. Can't do it. You're not one of those kind of rogues.
Nope. I think Nico said it in our little chat earlier. The braid has 3 strands.
Yep. Yeah. That was just salt to the wound. I'm like, come on.
Oh man.
I'm like not sure I was breathing for a good chunk of that.
Yeah, Taylor, I loved it that neither one of us wanted to be the one to make the call to run away. Because that's like I wrote in the chat, I said, I feel so dirty.
I love the fact that like Takakagi shouted coward at them, but obviously you heard him shout coward, which is like, oh, so good. Accidentally really good.
Yeah,
you know?
it just fits so nice. Fits so nice.
And you killed somebody.
You almost killed 3 somebodies.
But
by
you killed
yourself.
somebody. Satomi
Oh
killed
yeah. Oh yeah. That reality probably hasn't set in for him because he's
No.
worried so much for the 2 of you. But once it sets in, yeah, that's going to be hard.
Yep. Oh my god, Nico, too fucking good.
So good. So good.
It does make me think to myself, what the expletive can't Nico run? I mean, seriously.
There is no limit.
That's it. We're Teletubbies, 3-shot. Nico's running it.
Oh, okay. I was wrong. There is a limit. I was wrong. Retconning that statement.
There we go. You just said it. My Little Pony or Eberron. I am totally with you on the Eberron. I cannot stand that setting. And
Right.
My Little Pony.
So the monastery burns brighter. The upper floors collapse in. The heat goes from orange to red. Threatens to become white. And the inferno is such you can feel like your hair like pushed away from the heat. Those strands that have come undone from the exertion of the past evening and day. Satomi, you drag your brother and sister the reaches of the flame. Looking over your shoulder, you can see the river that had served you a decade or more, reflecting the light, the red flames behind. It looks like a torrent of blood. You oppose your siblings and can pull Masato down from the altar, cutting the binds free. Your brother's arrow through his chest. A smile of peace upon his face, despite the torture and agony of his death. You can see here, near the outskirts of like the flaming ruins, several other bodies, garbed in faded purple and black. And Masato didn't go down without a fight. As you observe this, there's another great beam falls into the fire, sending cinders up like infernal fireflies. Exhausted, you find your way back to the banks of the river of blood, to the stirring of your siblings.
So he would, I picture him kneeling between the 2 of them, his vision going from one to the other. And when he sees one of them stir, a smile immediately crosses his face. He reaches up and wipes the tears away from his eyes. There's much like the opening scene where he met the woman that had fooled him. He has streaks of these tears across his soot-stained face. Takakagi. Brother, you are truly great.
You saved me.
You would see this dark look come over his face. There will be time for that. Do you think you can walk? Do you need some water? I can get you some water. And he starts to move towards thing, and he scoops some in his hands, and he carries it over, and he dribbles it into your mouth, and he'll do that a couple of times.
Yeah, he'll like push himself up onto his elbow, and then like try and stand a little bit shaky and like fall back. But eventually he'll like leaning against a tree or whatever, pull himself up to standing.
And you would see that he would have done his best to clean up and bandage the wounds on Kiku. And he reached his over it with a ripped piece of his own kimono that he has soaked, and he uses it to like blot her face. And he looks at you with a worried look. He says, "She's poisoned like you, but it seems that the poison got deeper for her. I cannot rouse her."
Yeah.
And he maybe starts at that. He kind of Kiku! And he scoops up your face, and it's like literally like really close. And he just like kisses you on the forehead. You crazy fool!
Too close.
He would back off.
Taka? Are you alright?
Yes. Are you?
Yes.
You're down, fool.
Me? You said you would come.
I told you to run.
You
I would
lied
have.
to us.
I would have come after I killed them.
Did you? Did you kill them all?
And he thinks about mentioning that Satomi shot the woman, and then he would say, "Yes, I did."
There's a moment where he almost corrects you, but then he looks at you and he nods, and it's like you almost think that you see his mouth whispers the word "thank you."
There's a wan smile across her face. Truly, truly you are a great warrior.
Worthy to be the head of our clan, Hatamoto. I do not know our father, but I'm sure he would be proud this day.
It is easy to be a great warrior when you fight brigands.
I don't think so, brother. Those are not simple thieves.
They
Master.
fought with poison.
Assassins, maybe?
Yes, almost certainly. The woman. She said Hiroki.
Is that... Are they... They're the ones.
The clan burned ours.
Then our course is set, and our vengeance has begun.
And before you yawns Chinokawa, the river of blood, the river you must follow upstream. You leave your burning home to return to your burnt home and bloody, cold vengeance. And that's where we'll end tonight's session. Thanks for playing, guys. It was heaps of fun.
Yeah.
Oh my lord, so good. Thanks for watching. If you did, we had lots of people all the way through. Thank you for that. See you next time.
Yeah.